Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our Fireside Chats. We've got a very special episode today. We're going to be doing a little bit of a Canada focus today, talking a little bit about how Canadians feel about generative AI. I know this is the topic du jour. Everybody's talking about it. And obviously at QuestionPro, we've been using a lot of generative AI to come out with new features, build surveys automatically, do plagiarism detection. But there's still that question out there, is this good? Is it bad? What do people think? Is it going to replace their jobs? Is it helpful? So today I'm joined by a very special guest. We've got Dan Jackson here, also known as DJ. He runs our Canadian business. And one of the things that DJ does for our Canada market is kind of does a monthly roundup, a study that we send out to just kind of gauge, how are people feeling about things in Canada. And this last month, they put together a survey all about generative AI, how people feel about it, how people feel about Chat-GPT. So we're going to dive in a little bit in this session today to just understand, how do people feel about this? Where is it going? And if we've got some time at the end, we'll even do a little bit of a live demo. So if you are out there, ask your questions, put your comments in. And if we have some time at the end, we'll actually do a AI generated survey. So come up with a topic for us. Don't try to stump us too much. The AI is only so smart. I think we'll talk about that today. But give us some topics and we'll see if we can't generate an AI survey live today. But as we get into it, welcome DJ. How's it going?
Awesome. Thanks. Good to be here, Asim. I know it's getting late for you in the UK, but it's glad to be on your Fireside Chats, one of the first guests.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's Friday, right? I mean, we're getting close to the weekend, but that means everybody's in a good mood out there. We are in Friday time. So it's kind of a good time to chat about what's going on in the future, right? Where are we going with this whole Chat-GPT, generative AI? What do you think about this whole thing, right? I mean, obviously you wanted to kind of put this survey out there last month. Tell us a little bit about this trend, right? For people who maybe don't know about it. What is this whole Chat-GPT thing, generative AI? Is this thing just a fad? What's going on with it?
So I think everybody is up to speed on sort of the particulars of what Chat-GPT is. And I think some people are tired of hearing it. And I know I, in fact, have heard it so many times in the past few months. It is kind of starting to grate on the ear. But the interesting part of, say, AI overall and Chat-GPT is just the sort of uniqueness of it. And I as a layman, I could tell from like personal experience where it was like, you always heard this ominous sort of Chat-GPT is coming down the pipeline, about a year ago. It's going to disrupt, change everything. And it started, just based on sort of that take, I was more and more interested. And it got to the point where I'm I don't have any sort of AI in the household or any sort of, like my parents do. If I walk into their house, like the walls start talking to you and such. And I'm like, okay, something's up here. If my parents are adopting this, they're not early adopters at all. I think something is up. And I was watching something really clued in. The interest for me was there was a show. And it was cartoon. It was called Nothing Forever. And as I watched it, it was all generated by AI. And Chat-GPT wrote the script.
Wow.
Designed the cartoon for it. It sort of had the every element of this show that was continuous and never ended was written by AI. Wow. And to me, that was very special where you think of things like AI as everything is technology, but you don't think of like artistic kind of groups of directors, writers, everything coming together. And this show was kind of like actually literally blew my mind. So I started getting interested into it. And that's why the surveys kind of took off.
Interesting. So was the show any good? How many episodes have you seen? Are you a fan?
Well, it was interesting because I'm a Seinfeld fan, and okay. it was based on Seinfeld, and it was really poorly done. It was actually terrible. And so when you're watching it, but the thing that struck me was everybody was commenting on it in real time. It was the #1 show, in, I think, January. And
Yeah.
and so for me, it was interesting, the cultural shift. How
Yeah.
was everybody watching this fake show that which would replace, say, potentially directors, writers, animators, everything? So I started to think, well, let's probe some folks.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we'll definitely get into the data and see what comes back, in terms of the survey that you did and how people are feeling about this. But I think that this show is actually just such a good example of where we are in this kind of generative AI hype cycle, right? So everybody is talking about it. I'm sure people are tired of talking about it. Your parents are using it in their house, right? It's on 60 Minutes. It's like, that's when you know we've gotten into the mainstream. But the key point is that everybody's watching this show, everybody's talking about this show, but it's not a good show. Right? And so right now it's like it kind of feels a little fatty, right? Like people want to talk about it just because it's cool that it was built automatically. But there is that kind of question, like what's the quality of what's being created? And I think that's the key thing to think about when you kind of ask yourself, oh my God, is my job going to get replaced by AI? Is this thing going to replace, are we going to need humans anymore to do the work? Like, I think we still have to remember, like, the show got a lot of attention, but it wasn't actually that good. Right.
Exactly. It's a fair point. And I just want, like, to the point where its adoption rate. So not only was it, it's all in the mainstream and it was a hot topic, but the chart of Netflix in 1999 took 3.5 years to get 1 million users, all the way, every sort of technology platform up until ChatGPT took 5 days. And so there is, there is an adoption level that's interesting. And you're right, though. For instance, like writing something, you're not going to win a Peabody for writing award by putting it in a chat GPT, like write me a novel. There's always the human element of decision,
Right.
the end product, right?
And so that's kind of what your survey was getting at, right? Is like, how are people feeling about generative AI? Are they worried about it? Do they feel like it's going to replace their jobs? Tell us a little bit about kind of the key takeaways from the survey and the study that you guys ran in Canada.
Yeah, so we initially had a little fun with it. So in our roundup, as you mentioned, we do a monthly report, and we use our instant answers function just to couple along with it. But we also have a survey at the end of it. So a little overview of a topic, a little bit of data, and then we ask you your opinion on things. So we had a little fun with it, and basically we said, what are your thoughts on ChatGPT? And we summarized sort of the takeaways from other research providers. And then at the end was interesting. We asked, was this written by ChatGPT? And 60% said they think it was, which goes to show like that dynamic of, is there going to be a trust factor with everything coming forward? Like what is it? It wasn't written by ChatGPT, but to show that it was interesting. So specifically on this, so we went a bit deeper on the actual survey, and it went out to 1,500 people across Canada. And we just asked a few questions, and basically we were able to kind of use the demographics and sort who is most concerned, and then the attention level. So how much understanding or attention that they're having of ChatGPT or AI overall. So overall, Canada was so the top two, so very closely or somewhat closely following it. Coupled together, about 40% said they were following it. And the concerns were interesting. So the top concern about ChatGPT was obviously a threat to job security. And that's kind of like in talking, that's kind of what we're finding. And then the least concern was interesting. It was use in plagiarism. 22% noted that as things. So there's a lot of talk about that, but maybe not as interesting to Canadians.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then overall concern level, so over Canada, overall concerned, about only 20%, so very concerned or somewhat, about 20% or 25 rather, had mentioned that from the survey, overall concern. And that it followed up. So the end of it, the sectors. So what sector you're in and how concerned you are. Um, so technology, hardware development, so developing
Mm.
programs or actual hard, computer technology. Uh, Almost half said they are very concerned
Mm-hmm.
with ChatGPT. And similarly, like IT, around 40% of those surveyed mentioned that they're concerned. And I'll finish here just for a pause is that the lowest was interesting. So retail was low, about 10%, and then food and beverage, obviously. So I don't think you know how to automate that quite yet, but or ChatGPT, for instance, can't really do much there. So that's kind of the lay of the land of that little snippet. I have some more to come
Mm.
after.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So generally, it feels like, all right, some people are concerned. It's mainly people in kind of information roles, IT, programming. But there is this kind of, real concern that, hey, is generative AI going to kind of take over my job, right? That's kind of the biggest concern. Oh man, what about my job security at the end of this? So do check out the full survey results there. You will see that in kind of the comments there. I'll put this QR code back up if you want to see the full results. But definitely some interesting data just in terms of how people are reacting and thinking about ChatGPT, generative AI. Obviously, you used QuestionPro for this, so you were kind of able to slice and dice the data. You put, I think, 1,500 people through the survey. Did you see any sort of like demographic trends, regional variations, demographic variations in terms of people's concerns?
Yeah, so there is, I don't know, a preconception or misconception about certain regions that I follow, that I start out with, is sort of certain areas within Canada maybe a bit laggard compared to in technology, where some are very much early adopting and have fully joined in on the automation front, or AI rather. And it's true, it came out in the data a bit. So our provinces like where I am at, Ontario, they're very much considered sort of the technology hub. For instance, Toronto is probably the vast majority of technology firms, and then they were actually a Google Smart City candidate, so they were very much in invested in this idea, and
Mm-hmm.
they scored the highest. So in terms of, is it good for society? So is ChatGPT good for society? Ontario did score the highest, and then that sort of preconception of what areas, if they're laggards, did play out. So they were the lowest. So our Midwest, or kind of farm prairie regions in Manitoba and sort of Saskatchewan, they said it's a bad thing at about 30% of those surveyed. So that's a bit of a regional thing.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's nice that you're able to kind of slice and dice the data, get data back so fast. You talked a little bit about instant answers, which, QuestionPro gives you a really quick way to get data back on a simple question. So I do want to show some data here on the screen. This is an instant answers that I think you did just yesterday, right? You can see there at the bottom, it was run on March 9th, 300 responses within Canada. And this basically just works directly in Slack, right? You can throw out a question, get some data back, and then this can kind of help you design your survey, make sure that you're kind of writing the right answer options, going about it in the right way. And I thought this was super interesting, right? Like which of the following do you trust AI tools like ChatGPT to do? 57% said provide accurate information. And obviously, the next kind of biggest box was 24% carry out mundane routine tasks. And then finally, kind of write creative content. And I thought I found this pretty surprising. Like, my understanding of Chat-GPT or generative AI is that it's actually really good at carrying out the mundane tasks, but a lot of times the information is not accurate, right? Because it's just going to the internet, and we know how much false information is on the internet, in social media. And so I think this is actually one of the biggest misconceptions about AI tools, is that actually they can do a lot of the mundane tasks and they can help get you started. But for the most part, you as the human still need to make sure that what the AI is saying is actually accurate at the end of the day. So I thought this was interesting to see, how many people are putting a lot of trust into AI. And hopefully for everybody there on the call, just take a second look at what the AI is actually bringing you back. It's a great way to get started, but a lot of the times it's not actually that accurate. And this data is saying that people kind of just trust in it implicitly, instead of actually thinking about, no, maybe that AI doesn't have the right answer all the time.
Exactly, that's a good point. And a company up in Canada called Leger Marketing, they did a study similar to ours and went a little bit deeper. And they had questions around familiarity of tools. They said AI. So, and they also talked about what can it and can't do. So similarly to this question. And one of the things that the biggest takeaway from it was that humans still don't think it can provide sort of empathy or sort of that level of human connection that's important. And I agree. And I think we really have to take a step back too about that, is sort of like that human element, the meeting, the talking, the thing. I think that'll it'll be even worth more, considering everything will be automated to some extent.
Yeah, and you make a good point, right? If you look at this third bucket, 16% feel that they would trust an AI tool to actually write creative content. And to your point, AI doesn't have the emotions. They don't have the creative kind of juice, to say, hey, how do I make this show actually interesting? So it's amazing, right, that an AI can actually write a TV show, animate a TV show, make it never ending. But it doesn't really matter if people don't want to actually watch it, if it's not very good. And I think you see the same thing in writing creative content, right? I mean, you hear about students kind of writing their essays with Chat-GPT, or people writing up blog posts, but it's not very good content at the end of the day, right? It's just kind of regurgitated stuff from elsewhere on the internet with some filler to kind of make it sound good. And I guess you can get away with it if 57% of people are just going to assume that it's accurate, but a lot of times it's not, right? So it's tough to just kind of take what the AI is doing and just run with that without really looking at it, or kind of making a human call on what you want and what you don't want from the AI.
Exactly. Yeah, it lots of interesting things. And one thing it mentioned, specific tasks. This last survey I mentioned, the specific tasks it doesn't want you to do. So the number one was like my parents, to have Alexa or something in your house kind of do those sort of small tasks, whether it's thermostat change or something. The one least likely that they would accept sort of ChatGPT or AI to be a part of was teaching your children.
Yep, I would agree.
So that trust, to go that far, I think that trust element it's not there yet.
I love it. Well, listen, I mean, we can talk philosophically about AI and Chat-GPT and all this stuff for ages, but I think what I want to do is show the folks that are on the show how it really works in real life, right? I mean, we've built it now into QuestionPro. It's called QxBot. It'll actually write surveys for you automatically. And obviously our audience, are people who write surveys, they do market research. And I think we're all trying to figure out, like, how can this thing help us, right? I mean, maybe it's not the most accurate. Maybe we can't trust it completely. But as researchers, can it actually take a decent amount of workload off of our plate? So let's see kind of how it looks in QuestionPro in action. For those of you on the show, feel free to put in a comment if you want to see the AI kind of write a specific survey. Otherwise, DJ and I will come up with something, and we'll see things in action, right? This is going to be a little bit of a live demo. So we never know how things are going to go, right? These AIs can kind of say anything they want to, but let's give it a go. I think this will be fun, and I think it'll show people kind of the power of QxBot and how we're using AI in QuestionPro. So what you're seeing on my screen right now is kind of the main interface for QuestionPro, where we can actually go in and create surveys. So let's call this one Canada QxBot. And what you'll see here is that when you create the survey now, we actually have this button to build with QxBot. When we click on that, all we have to do is just describe the survey that we want. DJ, what do you think? I think we should do something related to Canada, like satisfaction with the Canadian Prime Minister. Is that going to ruffle some feathers? What do we think?
The hot button and get some views there, but I think maybe, yeah, I think the way the government is performing, so a satisfaction in maybe the government or the Prime Minister. You're right.
All right, so as you can see here, all I'm doing is just describing what I want the survey to be about. Now I have this option here to also have the AI bring me some demographic questions. Let's turn that off for now, and let's go ahead and build this. Now, this is going to take some time. Remember, we've got an AI here that's literally going and kind of scouring the internet. It didn't know this prompt ahead of time, right? So it's now trying to figure out, what do I actually mean? Who is the Canadian Prime Minister? How do I write questions to come up with satisfaction? What are the different answer options that we should be putting out there? And hopefully we'll start to get some kind of results back here. So you can see right off the bat, right, we've already got some questions coming back to us here. So pretty simple one at the top, right? How satisfied are you with the performance of the Canadian Prime Minister? Okay, that was probably an easy one to write, right? That was basically in the prompt at the beginning. But at least the AI was able to understand that, okay, there's a scale to satisfaction, right? That on one side, I might be very satisfied, I might be very unsatisfied, and it's kind of giving you that starting point. Now it's going a little bit further, right? So clearly, if you want to ask about satisfaction, we should probably also be asking about specific things around why you might be unsatisfied. So here, the AI has actually come up with, what has the Prime Minister done that you are most unsatisfied with? And then you've actually got some pretty, kind of more real-time things coming up here. Handling of the economy, handling of COVID-19, approval of certain legislation, like maybe that could be a little bit more specific, politically charged statements, unkept promises. But this is giving us a really, really good starting point to create a survey all about the satisfaction that Canadians have towards the Prime Minister. I mean, you could almost probably send this survey out right now and at least start to get some good data back and start to have a sense for how people are feeling about the Prime Minister in Canada. But obviously, it's not going to always get it completely right. And so what we do here is we've got this ability to say, which questions do I actually want to include in the survey? Let's go ahead and add all 9 of them. And now as a market researcher, like, this AI hasn't replaced me, right? I mean, it's done a good job of getting this survey started, but obviously we market researchers know, okay, we got to go in here and start to kind of, refine the methodology a little bit, maybe add some new answer options. So you'll see here, I can come in here and say, okay, it's good that we've got very satisfied, unsatisfied, but I kind of want to add a neutral, right? Neutral option. So we'll add that, and boom, now it's right there. These answer options I thought were pretty good. Like, DJ, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think there's a better answer option here as to why somebody might not be satisfied with the Prime Minister?
I'll take the 5th on that one. I think that's good for now. I think it's good for now. And like you said, it's like an iterative process for you yourself. Like, you're going to build upon it, add question types. And I just want to note that as a starting point, half the time as a researcher, we're kind of like in this sort of, what do I say? What do I start? And sometimes the validation of this allows you to begin and start.
Exactly. Exactly. So like as a researcher, I may not have even thought to ask a question like this in my survey. Now the AI has done that brainstorming for me. It's kind of prompted me to say, you know what, you should probably ask something with some answer options around why people are unsatisfied. And now I can go in here and easily edit some of these things, right? I could probably turn on another option, get some open-endeds in there, approval of certain legislation. Maybe I want to edit this and put in a specific piece of legislation in there. But now it's so easy to do. I mean, we've effectively written a whole survey in less than 3 or 4 minutes. And this is probably ready to send out. So if anybody wants to take this survey out there, I am going to put a little QR code here up on the screen. All of this you can do directly in QuestionPro. So you can scan this one right here, or what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take that URL and I'm going to put it in the comments as well, so you can take that survey. Take our AI survey here. So there you have it. We actually have just created a survey using AI built completely into QuestionPro. What do you think, DJ? Do you think market researchers are out of a job?
Not yet. We noted that it was there are some benefits, speed as which, like, I mean, if you want to think of it, the most important thing to some of these agencies is that, or anybody rather doing research, is speed. And I think just like you just shown how fast this can be, where it's literally live and it's sent out in a number of seconds. And we weren't subject matter experts, or rather you weren't, but you were able to find something and put it out rather quickly. So
exactly. And I mean, I think, that editing process was so clearly an important part of this, right? I mean, that survey was not the best survey, right? If you're a market research agency, you can do better than that, but this gives you a great starting point. I don't think market researchers are out of a job, but I really do think that this helps them scale themselves, right? So that entire getting started process, brainstorming process, trying to figure out what are the right questions to ask, and going through that iterative process that you always go through with your clients, right? You come up with kind of the first draft of the survey, you go to your clients, they've got edits that they want to make, right? It typically takes 3 or 4 rounds until you get it right. Now you're able to shortcut the process, right? And get started much quicker, hopefully scale yourself and give your clients much more to think about in terms of how they can ask questions, how they can go about the research, and how you can bring back good data.
I agree.
Amazing. Well, I hope everybody out there, I think, this is giving them something to think about in terms of generative AI, how it works. It's really, really interesting to kind of see the Canadian perspective out there. I think, at the end of the day, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of perceptions going on around AI, and they may not be the right perceptions. That, hey, this thing isn't a silver bullet. It's not going to get everything right. It's not going to take over your jobs. But at the end of the day, there's some really, really nice practical uses on how you can scale yourself, how you can speed up your process, how you can use it to ideate. It's not going to write the show for you, right? If it does, it's probably not going to be the best show. But it can definitely give you some starting points, some great ideas. It can definitely speed up the process. And as you saw right there, you can create a survey in 3 to 5 minutes just by prompting the AI and getting it out there. So if you do want to give this a try, feel free to sign up for QuestionPro. DJ, myself, our teams are here to help with this. QxBot's currently in beta, but we can get you access if you mention the show. We'll make sure you can give it a try. And good luck out there with AI. Again, it's not there to replace you. It's there to scale you. But clearly the data is showing that the perception is maybe a little bit different than what we've shown today. So hopefully that was helpful for everybody. DJ, thanks so much for joining the show and providing some great data and insights from a Canadian perspective.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks so much again for joining.
Pretty good. No?